Okay, I would like to call to order the Village of Lansing Planning Board meeting of Monday, September 12th at 7:01 PM. First.
The screen on?
Yeah, why aren't the screens on? So if we turn the screen.
Uh-oh.
Do you want to turn that one towards that now?
This is the
Oh,
Hey, Mike,
Leave that.
now I can't see this one.
Just
Yeah.
hit the button.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Eric.
John Lang is trying to get in. Are you seeing him trying to come in? It just keeps hanging up on him.
I do not see him in the waiting room right yet.
He's on a cell because he's got limited access.
There he
So
is
just-
right there. You just try it again. Oh, and then can you hear us, John?
Uh-oh.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, hi, this is John Lang. I'm sorry, everyone.
No worries. We just got started. So we are going to change the order of the items on the agenda just a little bit because John does have another meeting to get to tonight. So the first order on the first order on the agenda is continue the review of a special permit number 2021-4516 Lansing Meadows. As per the conditions of resolution number 2021-4516 adopted on December 13th, 2021, the planning board will review the progress of the Lansing Meadows developments. Mike, did you want to kick us off on that?
What Eric is asking is for you to remove condition N, is that correct? Eric, is that correct, Jen? Mr.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes,
What the planning board has to decide is whether this is a minor or a major change to the special permit. If it is declared as a major change, then we need to postpone this and do a special or do a public hearing. If not, you feel it's minor, then you can continue, but that has to be determined first.
Okay. I will start, and then I'll give everyone else a chance. I think it's a minor change just because what he is asking for is ultimately a change in the sort of the dates associated with it. He's not changing the actual project itself or anything like that. And as I went back and thought about other special permits that we've extended, they've usually been for the same reason. There's one, just a couple houses up from me on Burdick where he just wanted a little bit longer to do it. So that's my opinion, is minor, just because all we're doing is pushing a date. We're not changing what the buildings look like or the scope of the project so much. Natalie?
I'll just clarify, you're not pushing a date, you're omitting a date.
Oh, yeah, right. Yep. But as we discussed
Yes.
previously, there is another condition in there that does still capture the overall completion of the project.
Well, if we are to do that, so there were two things that I understood was being addressed. One is major or minor, which we have to decide. And my first inclination is to join you in that, because I also am not inclined to have two more public hearings where we have to have this on our agenda yet again and again. So for that reason, I would do minor, but I don't want this to jeopardize anything that we might be, our rights under Q.
Mhm. So the determination of major or minor does not mean you're granting the amendment. It just goes to the protocols before a decision on the amendment can be made.
Okay, thank you.
I agree. I mean, it's minor. It's a date.
Jim, what about you?
I think the key thing, and I think Lisa touched on this, I'm hearing most of what's said, but maybe not all of it, is that the deadline be the deadline, and whatever the deadline is, that the planning board still, has the options and rights that it has with respect to the deadline. So as long as we're not changing, changing, the powers or what options the planning board would have, I'm okay with, calling it minor so this can move along.
Any other comments before we take a vote on it? Okay, I will entertain a motion to find this is a minor change.
Is our legal counsel in agreement with? Yep. Okay. I move that we make this amendment minor change.
Motion by Lisa,
Well, second.
second by Pat. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? Okay, so now that we've found it a minor change, we know the process we have to follow, and that is, the process is we don't have to go through another, public hearing or public hearings to, consider his request for an amendment. So, Eric or John, anything that you wanted to share with us?
Well, this is John Langy. Number one, thank you for making that determination. And I think by now everyone has seen from the last meeting that Eric has supplemented his application, as well as providing a detailed letter regarding the delays that he's experienced. He's also submitted a signed letter from his contractor. I think someone had asked for the signed version of the letter. He has provided that. And then lastly, he's provided the board with information on some other projects that have experienced similar delays. So he's provided all of this information for your consideration. And we're in agreement that the ultimate completion date is the date of the greatest importance in this matter. So with that, he's renewing his request to remove what's now been deemed as a minor change, the condition N, and ask that he'd be allowed to proceed with his project as he had started to bring it to completion by October 31st, 2023.
Anything you wanted to add, Eric?
Yeah, the only thing I can add to that is, a few meetings back when we started this process, the board suggested I speak to some other contractors, which I did, some which are known, some which are not. I've come to realize there's some really good contractors in Ithaca who know how to get things done in Plum Level and Square. Joey Lovejoy is one of those players. I mean, he is aggressive going after things. He's got a reputation for getting things done. And, you see projects in Ithaca that are having the same issues I've been plagued with, with projects that don't control all their subs. Joey does that. And he's a guy who can get it done. So, I'm looking forward to moving forward with him. And I think he can get this thing on the time frame.
Okay. Mike, anything you wanted to bring up or add before the board talks about it?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
So then the request that Eric has in front of us is to remove condition N out of the, remove condition N and extend the permit. And condition N specifically is the deadline for the completion of the foundation work for phase 2, buildings 8 and 14, which is passed. That was July 26, 2022. If we do remove that, there is still condition P, which is the deadline for completion of phase 2, which is buildings 8 and 14, is still scheduled for October 31st, 2023. So again, I know there was that concern about, retaining control over the overall completion date of the project, and there is a condition in there for that. I will share that at the last couple of meetings, we've talked about obviously the date and extending it or removing it or extending multiple dates. So we do have that final piece of information in front of us. It's to remove just the deadline piece for the foundations. We do have the signed letter from Lovejoy for working with Eric next year on this. The other thing that we talked about was establishing an escrow for the foundations for those 2 buildings, which is something that although there have been delays, I know we have the piece in here about a reasonable basis for delay, although Eric has provided some information about some projects that were delayed because of COVID. I look around in the village and I see other projects specifically in the village that were not delayed and have actually been moving ahead at warp speed. So I, for one, am in favor of requiring that we establish an escrow for the foundation work for buildings 8 and 14. And adding that as a condition to, would that be a condition in this? That would be a condition, an additional condition in the special permit, right?
There has to be an additional condition because by the virtue of removing condition N, you therefore remove the deadline that Eric missed.
Right.
And authorizing you to make the escrow. So it would have
So
to be.
this is John Langy, and I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm off to leave in just a few minutes, but I'm trying to understand from my perspective, not only as a representative of this developer, but as representative of many municipalities, how it is that the village can require an escrow on the private portions of a project. I'm certainly familiar with escrows for roads, drainage, sewers, lighting, things that are public in nature, but I have yet to come across an instance, and we did look through your ordinance to see whether there was a provision for this, and we cannot find that in there. So without that, I'm trying to understand how that can be a requirement of my client without support in the law or really public policy to require that on a private project, or whether you've required that of any other developers in the past.
Well, the public policy.
Respectfully.
Thank you. The public policy to this is that we don't know in what state, if these foundations are started, they're going to end. If the hope obviously is that they come to full completion and the homes are framed and everything is done adequately and suitably. However, if these foundations are left mid-completion and in a state which would subject the public to potential hazardous conditions, the village needs to be assured that they have funds available to secure that site. We're not going to go and finish the foundations for Eric, but Eric gave the example of the library downtown and that building that Frost is doing. That has been left dormant for a long time. However, it's secured by a fence. If Eric's project was halfway finished, when for whatever reason he had to stop, there's nothing securing that area. And the village needs to be sure that they have the public safety and best interest at heart and have the funds to then secure the site.
You know, the problem I have is.
Thank you for that.
I don't know if maybe I'm thinking about this wrong, but to my mind, a special permit. So we have our code, but when we do a special permit with conditions, to me, that's a contract. And that's how I think of this. We have obligations, so does this developer. He did not meet this obligation. And I, for one, given the history and having watched what has been effective for moving this project along, I would like to see some earnest money. I just don't see any other way to move this project along. And, you know, I also think this is a PDA, and some of that is a give and take kind of thing. And we've been giving and giving and giving for a very long time. And I think we've come to the conclusion is like you said, I think the only way that moves this along. And, you know, as for whether it was a reasonable basis, I have no idea whether there was even contact with another contractor, but I too have observed in like Lansing Trails, just a number of buildings go up, be finished, be sold and inhabited and landscaped, and, you know, 3 more buildings going up. So I don't know. I too support having an escrow for the foundations.
Mike has his hand up too. You want to go ahead, Mike?
Yeah, I don't see the difference between asking for an escrow for the foundation. I can't see the difference between that and having an escrow for the landscaping, which was acceptable to you at that time.
I would also point
Well, I
out
think
that
we addressed that in the past. We had addressed the landscaping at the last meeting, and I thank everyone for their responses. However, I would strongly disagree that this is equivalent of any type of a contract. I think that's not the case at all. I think the only thing that can be required here are things that have an involvement with the public. I don't disagree. Someone said this, that if that area where the foundations are going in, if they're properly protected, that I don't disagree with, but to have an escrow for the actual foundations themselves, I would ask if you could tell us if there's any other developer that's been required to post security to complete a private building. I've never done that in 33 years. I would tell my client that's illegal.
Oh, Mr. Langley, I'd like to go back to, we touched on it in the last meeting. I believe you said that you felt that the landscaping was a public whatever, but it's still private land. It's still on private land. So as is the foundation still on private land. So I don't see the difference between the two.
No, I think it's significantly different that landscaping is part of the part of the buffering for the project, the screening for the project as required by the board. And I think that's all appropriate. I'm not disagreeing with that. What I'm saying is it's antithetical to the idea that putting an escrow down for any part of these buildings, the foundation, the roof, any part of it, it's simply something that the board cannot impose. And I've yet to hear anyone answer my question about whether this has ever been done in the past or what section of the code allows for this. And again, I'm saying this all quite respectfully to the board, and I've got an open mind, and I often tell people, if you can convince me otherwise, I'll pull back from my position.
Well, I think one of the things that's important here, and I know Natalie has some information, but one of the things that's important here is there is a condition in the special permit that we can require an escrow. We're not saying here what the escrow is for. As a matter of fact, the planning board isn't going to determine what the escrow amount is. That is for the Village of Lansing Board of Trustees and the Department of Public Works to determine. But did you want to add on that?
Yeah, I would just add that it's very clear in the code that the board has the authority to impose reasonable conditions and restrictions as related to the incidental use and proposed special permit. These conditions were extensively discussed between yourself and Eric over the term of, I believe, 3 meetings. And in the last meeting, when these were approved, verbatim, your language attorney, Langy, was thanking the board for the language in Q, for working with you and meeting you halfway. It is very clear by the language, any deadline in this special permit, and the 3 deadlines immediately preceding Q are for private portions of the project. You did not at any point in time, I watched back the hearings today, bring up any concern about a private escrow. So to now bring it up months after the fact, I think is disingenuous.
And I would say,
Obviously, I would disagree with that strongly. And I would challenge anyone on the board or its council to tell me where in the actual code that appears in citation to the old resolution under a different set of circumstances. It doesn't say in here anything about the private. In fact, it says that any escrow that gets established would be determined by the Department of Public Works. Well, the Department of Public Works doesn't care about the foundation of the building or the structures. They care about the sidewalks and the streets and all of the regular public portions of that project. Again, if someone can say this has been done before in the village,
There's no
we can talk
requirement that
about
it
that
had
and I
been
can
done
listen.
before. There's absolutely no requirement that it had been done before. And quite frankly, though I haven't been representing the village that long, I don't think we've had a developer quite like this before or an issue like this before.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I don't understand. What do you mean by quite like this before? I don't understand what that
This
means.
has lasted how many years, Lisa?
yeah, I would say 12 to 15. I know, one of the reasons, yes, I was going to say, the reason we don't know of another developer is because most of the other developers we've worked with have met their commitments and deadlines in a reasonable manner. The other thing is, I have a lot of documents pertaining to this entire project from approximately 2010. And I have a letter where Mr. Getzman committed to, before he got his certificate of compliance for Jay's, he was going to have started these residential buildings. That was in 2010. So 12 years hence, here we are, and we are simply trying to get this done. We keep hearing how, yes, he wants to get this done. He wants to get this done. He wants to rent this stuff. And yet there are things just never quite get there. And I don't know whether, I should have asked Mike Scott this, but we arrived July the 26th and it was obvious that by driving by that the deadline had been missed, but I don't know whether it was even discussed before then. Gee, things are not going well. I'm having a terrible time finding a contractor, which to me is amazing because he had 4 other buildings, cookie cutter buildings, same buildings. This probably could have been done in half the time. I mean, the first one's always the hardest. And I don't know what happened to that contractor, but I just can't believe that without a nudge of an escrow or whatever you want to call it, like I said, earnest money. I just want to see serious commitment. I have not seen it for 12 years.
I am going to have to get off the phone. I want to say I'm not trying to upset the board, so I apologize if my remarks are doing that. I
I just
understand.
get upset.
I do want to leave you with this thought. The discussion was made just a moment ago with regard to one project that had a security fence around it. I think that's where the focus should be, that if enough escrow to make sure the site is safe or reclaimed makes sense to me. But the idea that somehow the village is going to get involved using an escrow to build out a private developer's
Never said.
foundation or a building, I've never seen that in 33 years. And I
No,
say it
and-
again,
and-
say it respectfully, and I'm
Not the
sorry for
intent.
upsetting people.
No,
I
it's no,
specifically said that was not the intent, that the village was not going to complete Eric's escrows.
I don't expect us to either.
Okay.
It's not the village's problem.
It's what I'm just sort of
Well,
saying.
but the escrow is, you're saying the escrow is for completion of those foundations. That's the private part of the project. If it doesn't get done, then presumably the village would use the escrow to complete the foundation. I'm saying, why not focusing on the issue that was identified earlier, which is the safety of the site, which could indeed be fencing. I do understand that, and I think that's appropriate. But the idea that a escrow be set to complete private portions of a building, this doesn't make any sense to me.
So John, what we're saying is that the escrow would be established to,
Compliance.
no, I mean, it would be established to make sure that Eric complies with the special permit. We're also not setting what that escrow amount is. That's for the Board of Trustees, for the Department of Public Works to do. But the escrow would be, and it's right out of the special permit, is to make sure that he meets his, what he promised to do. And so that's what we're here to discuss. And
Yeah,
so, go ahead, Jim.
No, I think the language in paragraph Q is broad and comprehensive, and I mean, this is, would give the planning board of the trustees of the village to impose the conditions, as it deems appropriate. The language is clear, as was pointed out earlier. It was discussed extensively with the developer and agreed to.
I mean, there were
So
some.
I'm sorry, folks, I have to leave, but as I get out of my car and head to my meeting, I just want to say I'd ask the board to further consider the idea of the policy behind the escrow, which would be, as mentioned earlier, get the site so that's acceptable at a price that's reflective of that. If it's fencing or if it's regrading a portion where the two buildings are, that seems more apropos to the issue here than it would be setting an escrow for completion of foundations for a few buildings.
Yep, and that dollar amount will be for the trustees. If the board moves forward with requiring escrows or an escrow be established, it'll be up to the Board of Trustees to determine what that amount is.
Then I appreciate that. I would only ask that this board articulate exactly what the escrow would be for, so as to avoid it being involved in constructing private buildings. And I'm gonna thank you again. I really appreciate it, but I really do have to walk into my meeting, and I'll check back with my client later on tonight.
Okay, thanks, John.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks, folks. Take care now. Bye-bye.
So we've established it's a minor change.
Minor.
Hey, go ahead.
Oh, I don't say that there's any requirement in there in the section Q or anywhere else in here that the planning board has to specify what the escrow is for.
No, we don't.
Well, actually, it says
Well,
to be established and funded for the costs of complying with the special permit.
Okay.
And that's really what we're looking for is I do call it earnest money in that, all right, we have now passed this deadline, blew it off. We now have October 31, 2023 looming ahead. And I'm just saying, well, let's just be sure that happens. And I would like that complied with. And so for that, I would like an escrow established.
Well, I think yes, and I just want to be very clear, because I feel like things were getting a little bit confused with Mr. Langley, so I just want to be clear that it would be my recommendation as counsel that when the escrow agreement is written, it is not written that it permits the village to complete any phase of Eric's private portion of the development. Not in the slightest. The monies would be used for properly securing the project if it is left in an unsafe state and as incentivizing Eric to actually finish. So that would be my recommendation for what the language of the agreement would be and how those escrow funds would be used, not in any way to authorize or permit the village to finish Eric's project for him.
So we haven't done one of these in a while. So what,
We
so
vote on the amendment.
we have to vote on the amendment and, but so we don't, there's not a new resolution in front of us. We have to vote on amending the permit to remove a condition and adding, would we say condition?
Well, if you remove the condition,
No, we don't want to remove.
then you would have to add a
Add
condition.
condition W.
If you do not remove the condition, then you would have to vote on whether to request the village board of trustees to establish an escrow.
I don't want to remove it. It doesn't matter. He missed it. It's gone. It makes me very nervous to remove something. It's sort of like somebody saying, well, it's not necessary to have it there. Well, then, it doesn't matter if it's there. Well, then it doesn't matter. So just leave it. I never like it when you have what I can, and I do consider this a contract, but that's okay. So I don't want to remove that. I just want to exercise our right under Q.
So then it would be leaving the special permit as is, adding condition, we'll say.
It would be- wouldn't be adding any condition. It's just establishing a separate escrow.
Oh,
Yep.
but so that piece doesn't have to be a condition.
No, because it's
No.
already permitted under
Okay.
Q.
No, like I said, as far as I'm concerned, M is gone. I mean, it's bad.
I was like, yeah.
Yeah. I think that, N, looking at the other screen here. Yeah, N has become moot. But nevertheless, I'm just concerned that there could be some unknown pitfall or trap by taking it out. And it could,
Me too.
maybe what Natalie's getting at, well, by taking it out and could cause trouble down the road. And I guess my feeling is, since I don't know,
I don't either. but I
don't
agree.
change it, leave it alone. And we have the right to impose an escrow.
See, I feel that.
I'm fine with that, yeah, that's absolutely fine.
It makes me very nervous. I don't know why, because the date has already been missed, why would you want that removed? So I too, Jim, feel that there might be something that we're unaware of. And I don't want to go there.
Okay. So then it would really be a vote to, do we vote to ask the trustees to establish an escrow?
Well, you have to say first no to the amendment or yes.
Okay.
And then vote to recommend the escrow. Or no.
Could I interject something?
Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
Sorry, I'm just, because unfortunately, John had to jump off, but I'm going to go back to some discussions I had with John and back to, look, people say I'm a developer, been here for 12 years. I built 400,000 or 500,000 square feet in the village of Lansing. I mean, I've probably done the most building here of anybody. I started in 1998 with Ned Hickey, and Ned Hickey's the one who always told me, Eric, you understand what you got to do, read the code. So I have read the code. I read your code inside and out. And I think I understand it, maybe not as well, as the attorneys. But Ned always told me that, the local law is what the code is, and that's what you're there to enforce. And in the local law, I went back and forth. There's only 2 sections in there in the local laws that allow you to have a performance bond, which is an escrow. One is the buffer strips, which we've talked about, which you have invoked. And the other was a local law you passed last year for the sidewalks. Because before that, I don't think you could have an escrow for a sidewalk without giving yourself the power in the local law to have that. It tells you exactly how it's done and when it's paid and so forth. So those are the 2 escrows that you're allowed. And we did, John, I totally agreed for anything that happens on it. But the local laws and what he was asking for is, he said, you've got to show me in your local laws where you're allowed to have an escrow, let alone an escrow in a private development. So that's the question that we have. I understand there's angst and everything else, and you've seen the other developments happen in the village of Lansing. Well, some of those projects you've seen have been done by Joey Lovejoy. And that's why I went to him, because I've seen he can get stuff done. And furthermore, I think you guys are in the process of passing a new local law, which allows you to deal with special permit and the fact that's not on track, you have the right to revoke it. So you've got all the power, if that law passes, which I assume it probably will, to do what you want. You know, if we don't meet the October deadline. So everything's in there. And we're not trying to take N out for some type of catch. We just thought it had to come out because it's gone and passed. I'm just trying to get this thing done. I'm trying to get a special permit in place where I can go to Joey and say, look, when you come online in September, you're ready to go. So put me in your queue and let's go.
Eric, respectfully, the law does permit the board to set reasonable conditions related to the special permit. Your attorney also just said that he would agree with an escrow for securing the property. So to now say that we cannot escrow would be exactly counterintuitive to what Attorney Lange just said. I am not saying that the village is going to complete your project. That is not at all what that escrow would be for. It is simply to assure that you finish the project, and then if you don't, we can properly secure the area. So if it's your position that there's not authority for that, there's certainly things that you could do. But frankly, these have been very well negotiated by your own attorney, and he agreed to Q in its whole when it was adopted. There was absolutely no commentary from him as to any opposition or requests for change that weren't made during the last meeting. He accepted it wholeheartedly. So for this now to be an issue, it's very perplexing to me, and I don't think it stands.
Well, I think it was asked in there, so for a reasonable basis for delay, and I think I've shared, you know, there's very strong basis for delay, but I'm not trying to stand behind that. But at the end of the day, the project doesn't change. You know, it allows you to do it, but under your local law. He's not here. I can't speak for him. Is all I'm saying is when everything was here over my 24 years in working with a village, it's always been just show me in the local law. Again, I'm not trying to get around it. I'm just trying to get things done. And it's very specific in your code where you're allowed to have it. And when it hasn't been specific, you've changed your local laws to allow it.
I've already, my explanation is not going to change. It stays the same, and I understand yours is staying the same as well.
I would just say that's what he says. Just please show him the local law where
I have
they can.
reiterated verbatim the local law that permits the board to set reasonable conditions on a special permit. That is a very wide net that it casts for the board. We do
Right.
not have to enumerate within that section all the powers that it gives the board to set as conditions. And the case law is very clear that there's a wide breadth of conditions that can be set on a special permit.
No, and I've looked at that, and the board usually has their 10 general conditions, which they always go through. In those special permit, if they're not met, they add additional conditions, which can bring them closer to where they were, which I fully understand.
Which we now
So-
have with the escrow agreement.
So what I would say, Eric, is I think the question you're asking, Natalie's answered. And I think as a board, we are ready to move forward and make a decision on what we want to do.
Okay,
So-
I don't think it has, I'm just saying, I don't think it has been answered. I don't understand where in the local law you can do that. And that's what John was asking. Unfortunately, he's the one representing me and he's not here.
Hey, Natalie, can the board just cancel this whole special permit?
At this point, unfortunately, I think your option is to pull the building permit.
Per Q, I thought one of the options was to withdraw the applicant's building permit, including but not limited to
Right.
withdrawing the applicant's building permit or requiring additional escrow accounts to be
Oh.
established and funded for the costs of complying with the special permit as determined by the Village of Lansing Board of Trustees and Department of Public Works, as Mike has previously stated.
And that's all you need. It's right there in writing. Both parties have agreed to it. And then I don't think the arguing needs to go any farther.
No, I think we could be here all night going back and forth, and it's not necessary.
So I think that we're here to discuss Eric's amendment. We can accept it, we can reject it, we can impose our powers under condition Q. We can do nothing, we can set additional escrows, we can pull the building permit. I don't think it's the best interest, and I think what we're here to do and discuss is, again, I've stated this always, we're here to watch out for the best interest of the village. I don't think it's in the best interest of the village to pull the building permit. I don't think it's in the best interest of the village to do nothing. I think it is in the best interest of the village to set additional escrows to make sure that Eric complies with a special permit that he's applied for and that we've approved. I don't know how many times. I know it's one special permit, but we've been here a lot. So,
Well, just to go back to what he requested, all I could ascertain after reading this letter was
the
that
very last speech.
was the last sentence waiving condition and I would like to see, as we have discussed, not do that. I don't want to, do we have to vote on
Is that a
that?
motion then to
You have to
reject the amendment for the special permit?
So basically, that means that we are not accepting the request for amendment. Okay, I move that we not accept the request for the amendment to a special permit. Number 2021 4516, adopted on December 13th, 2021.
It's a motion by Lisa. Oh, hang on one second. Mike,
I still want to let the board know that this can fall back into that section 145-59D9 that we had before, the conditions of the special permit.
Mhm.
As far as, like Natalie had touched on, that I can still withhold any building or similar permit that would otherwise be issued in connection with the result of granting of the special permit. Which means, I know Eric has said before that he doesn't have any building permits for those other two, but the building permits are still open on 3 of the other 4 buildings. If that were the case, if these conditions, if a condition is not met, if condition is not fulfilled in this special permit, you couldn't possibly get the CFC on those other buildings because that building permit would now be held. I don't know if that's the avenue that you really want to go down, Eric.
No, so I guess will we have to move that condition then, Mike?
No,
No,
we don't have to.
No, we don't.
It
That
just leaves that open.
I was thinking about this a little more, and I think this is ground that has been covered a little. But by taking out in, that would arguably maybe adversely affect the planning board and the village's ability to require.
Yes.
So I really don't think that, well, I think we're on the right track, and I guess Mike's got a motion pending.
yeah.
Not
So,
that-
right, so Lisa moved that we reject Eric's amendment or requested amendment, which was to remove N. So I do have a motion for that. If anyone wants to second.
I will say, oh,
Second by Pat, to beat you to it. All in favor?
I,
And so with that done, if we want to request the
yes,
Board of Trustees to set additional escrows, what do we have to do for that?
for Q, right?
Make a recommendation to the Board of Trustees to set an
Just
escrow for the
Yeah.
And that's just something that I can
completion of the
send
project.
trustees an email.
I would vote.
Yeah, we need them.
Okay, I will then entertain a motion that I send an email to the Board of Trustees and recommend that they set an escrow under condition Q for the applicant to what's the word I'm looking for here,
At the bottom, additional escrow, so
to comply with special permit.
compliance.
Yes.
Okay. I'm not gonna move everything.
Okay,
I'll make that motion.
motion by Pat,
Second,
second by Lisa, all in favor?
I,
Okay, it's unanimous. I will send tonight or tomorrow, I'll send a recommendation to the Board of Trustees that they establish an escrow to
I'm sure.
for the applicant to comply with special permit.
So what is that to comply? What way? The foundations or what? What are you talking about?
It would be the project. I mean, you've missed condition N. So
Yeah,
whatever the
no.
Board of Trustees thinks is reasonable or necessary for you to cost of complying with the special permit, that is what they'll determine. And again, I will be exceedingly clear because it seems to be misconstrued. It will be my recommendation to the board that this escrow agreement not before the village to complete your private project, but rather to incentivize you to finish it. This will be phrased differently than the other escrows. So I do not for 1 minute want anybody to think that this would obligate or allow the village to finish your private project. That is not the intent of the escrow. Yes, it is just to ensure your compliance.
I'm talking with this. Sorry.
Okay. I will send that off to the Board of Trustees, Eric, and I guess Mike and Natalie, and I would suggest, Eric, that you plan on getting on the agenda for the next Board of Trustees meeting if you want to talk to them about that.
Which,
I don't know
which
when,
means,
I don't know when they'll discuss that, but Mike can let you know when that's going to be put on their agenda to discuss.
okay,
Okay. Next item on the agenda, and again, we're going back up to the top here, so we could at least let John speak a little bit before he had to go. Is the approval of minutes for August 30th, 2022. Has everyone had a chance to read them? I know there were some edits that folks made and they got distributed around, so. Any questions on any of them? Jim, any questions?
No,
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of August 30th, 2022.
I move that we accept the minutes of August, what did you say was 30?
30th, motion by Lisa,
Thank you.
no second.
second by Jim, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. The next item on the agenda is the public comment period. So this is a chance for anyone from the public to bring up anything they want to bring up that's not already on the agenda for tonight.
My name is Carla Barstow. I'm here as an observer for the community party.
Hey, Carla. Yes.
Hi, Karen Regal. I have a comment. I was left in the waiting room, so I drove up here. I wonder if there's some way I could like have the computer just like bing perpetually.
Oh, wait, somebody's waiting.
I was in the waiting room because it wasn't quite 7 o'clock. But I'm just wondering if we can have a different system, because I felt that way before, like, am I ever gonna get let in?
Yes, I looked and I didn't see you in there. I let John in when we started and I glanced over and didn't see you. I see you up there now. You're waiting. We- I don't know if there's like a way to have it ding or something. I don't know.
Why do we not have a wait? Why do we not have a wait?
I don't know.
I think maybe we should.
Just let people in at 7, just let
Hey,
people
Brent.
in.
I don't know if Brent has his hand up or not.
Brent, I don't think so.
Oh, okay. He was just stretching or something.
Sometimes, the alternative, what I've tried to send in, the alternative to the waiting room is to give people a passcode.
Well, this one hasn't passcode embedded in the meeting link. But the pass, it gets broadly shared. One of the reasons that they do it is I know because of previous issues with Zoom bombing and things like that. If you have the link, you can just get in if it's posted. So the meeting,
Never have.
the waiting room lets you control that and kick people back out to the waiting room if they're causing an issue. So without that, they could just join right back in and, but there might be a way to notify better.
We'll just have to be
That's
better
right.
at, more cognizant of it.
Yeah, I don't know. We can take a look and see. Maybe there is. I swear I looked too. If it was you, I would have let you in, Carolyn, I promise. But it's nice to see you in person. Maybe we'll
Sure,
have
now
by
he
the time.
says that.
Maybe if I don't let Carolyn in, she'll come here. It's been a while.
I was gonna say, this is nice to see you.
David Beard.
David.
I couldn't get on the agenda last week. We just missed it. But I was hoping to have a short informal conversation about greenway trail services and if at some point, if that's possible.
But tonight,
I mean, if it's about your specific project, what I would say is it should probably wait until you're on the agenda, but
I'm not
We're
sure.
not asking, just an informal discussion of which way the board might be leaning. In this case, John Courtney has asked for a specific specification. I would like to know that that's what you guys would like or something different before the Hum engineers do a lot of design work, chasing something down.
I don't think we can decide on that tonight. So these are really geared towards, people being able to share information with us and things like that, and not meant so much for us to be able to respond to specifics. Especially without, and that's, so right, and so I know you missed the deadline and people miss the deadlines all the time, but one of the reasons for that is, right, so that we do have time to, maybe get a hold of John or, kind of understand what his thought process and things like that. So I don't think we can decide on that tonight, unfortunately. You can share, if you want to share the information with us, you absolutely
I
can.
didn't ask for any decision, just try to get an impression of your thoughts on the issue in general.
Yeah, I mean, you can share the information with us because I don't even know what it is that John has suggested or recommended, but I'm not even so sure you'll be able to get an impression from anyone tonight other than I know at least 2 or 3 of us would say we need time to think about it.
I would like to hear what John's
Yeah.
specifications are first.
No, I understand.
Yeah, and that's all.
If I could just present the issue then to give you time to mull it over.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. And I'm not saying this to slight you, but is there a time limit on public comment or not? I know some places have one. I don't know if it's law or.
I should go down or like.
Okay. But at any rate, yes, I don't think you're gonna take all our night here. But yeah, no, by all means, go ahead.
Just tell me when you're ready for me.
Oh, no, go ahead. You're good.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
So, our plan has evolved and for the Lansing Village cottages, and we're getting, I think the finish line is in sight, and a lot of the comments on the engineering details that Brent and John have made over many months have been addressed. And there's a whole kind of final revision that's in their lap now. But one thing that came up at a staff level meeting that we had about a month ago or in July was greenway trails. And so I'm sure you remember there's a trail on the that leaves the Lansing Village Trails development, crosses Craft Road, and then the idea was to make a connection through our property to the trail that is goes toward Bush Lane, kind of at the west end of the existing Mill Croft development. And so that trail is drawn in, it's roughly 1,600 feet long, almost a quarter mile. And we had thought all along that we would surface it in some kind of bark mulch or stone dust, or have it be a trail. At this last staff meeting, John thought that, well, it should be a feature that can be maintained by village trucks, pickup truck, snow plows, vehicles, and therefore it should be an 8-foot wide asphalt trail / small road that can be plowed and maintained in winter. And if ultimately the village decides that's what they want to see, okay, fine. Why I'm here tonight is that the difference between a stone dust trail, a gravel trail, and a paved trail is one significant cost implication, but also would require a redesign of the stormwater plan for the development, because we're introducing a quarter acre roughly of impervious surface that wasn't planned on in this voluminous stormwater management. And so before we went down the path of amending this, I wanted to get an impression from you guys. What are your thoughts on that? Sure, you want to hear John's arguments for wide trail, although I think I kind of summarized them pretty well. I want something that's I would ask, I would point out that there aren't too many greenway type trails in the village that meet those criteria. So is that what the village really wants or is going to require? That's some of my comments. Like I said, I don't expect any decision now. Just want to throw it out there, and if you have thoughts, let me hear them. Otherwise, you know, I was hoping to get this entire proposal in a kind of final state to be voted on, you know, at the next meeting, but this thing is kind of hanging out there and it's a loose end. Might keep the board from making a final decision. So I just want to tie up to the ground.
I noticed, I think on the agenda, aren't the trustees talking about greenway stuff at the next meeting? Carolyn?
They're talking about
It's on the agenda. I mean, I don't know enough about this to really even, but I'm glad you let us know what the issues are, but yeah, I don't know enough about this, need to hear more about it, but
Yeah.
yeah, I can see that it is a big change if that, what you said is, you know, from something sort of more natural to an asphalt. Yeah, that is a difference that I can understand that it needs to be carefully considered.
Sure.
Yeah, I know that the trustees do have that open item on their agenda. I know that,
I don't know if this is how. this
I'm not
would
sure. I know that
impact.
there was
Updating the Greenway.
no.
They're just updating the
Is
Greenway
this
plan.
I thought they were to update it, right, Carolyn?
I know, but I know that they asked for public comments last time though, and there weren't any, so I don't know.
But you know, truthfully, I'm embarrassed, but I don't know what the Greenway plan says about any of this. What does it say about trails?
It's very fuzzy.
Oh, okay. I was hoping that's not the case. So,
That's
what's being updated.
That is, it's not.
okay, well,
Yeah,
but yeah, all right, we need to,
yeah, we'd have to, I mean, I personally would want to at least understand what John's thought process was behind it.
That's fine. I just want that out there so you guys are thinking about it. And
nice to see you in person.
this is great.
I know, I was afraid when you walked in, I was like, oh no,
Oh
he's
my
not on the
gosh.
agenda though.
Here comes David.
It's very,
But
but I didn't ask for an invite soon enough, and so
I want to let you in anyway, apparently.
no, that's right.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, if you, and obviously we know that you've been talking to Mike on and off for the past few meetings to try to get on the agenda, so.
we've had problems on our end with the design people and overwhelmed with everything. And then Chris Wood, who had been our lead guy, on the job and so on.
Oh, no.
Going part-time to kind of wrap ours up. but
Yeah.
It's not ideal.
He's trying to get out from his doors.
But yeah, I mean, if it is something separate from the, looking at the what the engineers are putting together and looking at moving forward with final plats and things like that, send us some information. You can get a hold of Mike and we could talk about it, at a meeting separate from that piece of it. If you're not ready, that would give us time to, get information from John and the trustees if we need to have a discussion about it.
You think in regard to this Greenway Trail?
Yeah, separate from, if you're ready to have that discussion prior to, having the larger discussion about, final plat approval and everything like that. We can do those two things separately. We
Well,
don't
it
have
sounds like
to,
wouldn't the stormwater impact the final plat or not?
yeah,
Well, I don't know
Maybe.
if you have the latitude to approve it with a condition on water plan be,
Yeah, no, usually,
Yeah.
we do.
Yeah.
I think, yes, we have.
Look, these fine engineering details, we had this discussion at the staff meeting. There are certain things you guys just probably don't care about, whether a fire hydrant is here or here.
yeah.
And
So we care about everything.
We don't have the expertise to make.
Exactly. Assess the-
Yeah.
Okay. No, we rely on our engineer, our DPW, Rank Cross. But a quarter acre of impervious surface, I would think would make a difference. So we need to hear from Brent too at some point. So we need to get all of it in one spot. But yeah, we've done it in the past where we can improve it and with conditions. And
as big as this whole Greenway Trail thing could be a condition, or
I guess we'll ask our council about that, to ponder that, and then
Yeah, we'd have to understand exactly what the goal of that is.
all right, well, you guys have the latest set of drawings, and Here it ends up. Find out.
From quite a few meetings back. Okay, those ones got you. Okay.
Those are the big guys.
That was quite a few meetings back, Okay. yeah. And
I was gonna say.
then we went
you know,
back,
what,
went back through and David and Brent and
Have changed some
yeah,
stuff, I'm sure.
we went through a few other items on it, but in general, it really hasn't changed all that much. You
It's been engineering.
got the
Yes.
essence of what it looks like,
Yeah.
but
Yes.
it'll be the fine details.
That has the
Back
townhouses and
next time.
all of that on it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, none of that. big
Changes.
picture Stuff has changed.
No.
Okay.
and but you're right, we don't have the expertise about the engineering stuff. We might be interested, but
David's definitely right that the proposed greenway plan is big, because on page 8, they recommend that surface pathways be crushed stone. And on page 11, they recommend that they be paved in asphalt for bikeability. Good. So.
Okay.
Actually, something we should talk about before we approve this.
There you go.
Yes.
well, good then.
Good for the public comment on it.
But there's, you know, you look into that document, there's paths, there's trails for motorized vehicles, there's just all different things. And, you know, it'd be nice to know what is the greenway trail? Well, if it's this, then the requirements should be this.
Right.
When there's 3 or 4 different variations with all their different variations of requirements, it's
So
confusing and hard to work with.
you need to go to the Board of Trustees meeting next week.
Okay.
To the public comment period. I'm serious, actually, sort of. I know you probably have nothing else to do.
Anything else?
Exactly, that's what I figured. Or at least I'm glad, actually, see, this maybe was meant to be.
You're welcome. No, I know, I apologize for not letting you in. After I told I looked over, I swear, I let John in, I looked over, nobody.
I was late.
Okay, maybe that's definitely. Okay,
Thank you for hearing.
yeah, no, thanks, David. Any other comments? There's nobody else online, so any other public comments? Okay,
I move that we close the public comment period.
motion by Lisa,
No second.
second by Jim, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next item on the agenda is to continue the public hearing for special permit number 2022-4607. I'm gonna mess up the last name, Valerie Kripanov, representing DNK Development and Management Incorporated, is proposing to install a second curb cut at 6 Millcroft Way. Tax parcel number 45.2-1-47.224. As per Village Code, section 145-20A subsection 1, a special permit would be required. And Mike's back at his desk to fill us all in on recent developments. Thanks, Mike.
You want me to fill you in on recent developments? Is that what
Yeah,
you?
I don't know. Yeah, no, I didn't know if there was anything else that we needed to know about the second curb cut. I know that we talked about it at the last meeting. We do have a resolution in front of us. The one concern was from John about, I guess the grade and elevation of that curb cut if a sidewalk did go through there. So and I know that we've factored that into the special resolution. So I didn't know if there was anything else.
No, I haven't gotten, I have not received any information from any of the neighbors or anything, but yes, that was the only concern was that the proper 2% grading would be there. If and when a permanent sidewalk came through.
Okay.
Did anyone on the board have any other questions before we potentially move forward with this?
Made sense.
Did you have anything, Brent, that you wanted to add about it? Okay, Natalie? Okay, then I would entertain do we have to do anything else other than close the public hearing before we vote on the special resolution?
General conditions for a
I
special
brought
permit.
my crib sheet, I didn't.
Hang on.
bring my- Okay. We have to close the public hearing.
Yeah, hang on a second, I got it right here, I promise.
We have to do the general condition.
That's the one, general conditions, that's it.
145-59.
I got it right here, see? I got it.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
So do we have to do anything though, with EAF or seeker or anything like that for this?
No, super.
No.
Okay, so then it is just, closing the public hearing, doing the general conditions and then going through the special
Yeah.
permit, so. I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing. for special permit number 2022?
Jill did it.
Jim, there you
On the
go.
wall.
Motion by Jim,
Second.
second by Pat, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. So. Got all these in front of me. This is great. So before any special permit is granted by the planning board or the board of trustees, the requested activity has to meet the general requirements. I'll read those off. If you do have any questions about any of them, stop me as I go along. So one, it will not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, or general welfare. It will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the vicinity or neighborhood. It will not impede the orderly development of the vicinity or neighborhood and is appropriate in appearance and in harmony with the existing or intended character of the vicinity or neighborhood. The street system and off-street parking facilities can handle the expected traffic in a safe and efficient manner. Natural surface water drainage ways are not adversely affected. Water and sewage or waste disposal facilities are adequate. The general environmental quality of the proposal in terms of site planning, architectural design, and landscaping is compatible with the character of the neighborhood. Lot area, access, parking, and loading facilities are sufficient for the proposed use. The requested use or facility conforms in all other aspects to the applicable regulations of the district in which it is located. And the applicant has shown that steps will be taken where necessary to meet all performance standards and all other applicable general regulations. Any comments on any of those? Okay, I will entertain a motion to say that these requirements have been met.
I move that we accept that all the general requirements, conditions have been met.
Motion by Lisa,
I'll second.
second by Pat. All in favor? Aye.
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 Unanimous. Okay, and then we can move on to the special permit resolution. Everyone should have a copy of that. Did you want to bring it up on the screen, Mike? Just in case anybody, I know that anybody out in the audience can't actually read it, but yeah. And I'm actually going to switch back over to my version of it because that one is really tiny on the screen. So this is the Village of Lansing Planning Board Resolution for Special Permit number 2022-4607, adopted on September 12, 2022. This matter involves consideration of the following proposed action, special permit number 2022-4607 for the proposal by Valerie Kurbanov representing BNK Development and Management to install a second curb cut at 6 Millcroft Way, tax parcel number 45.2-1-47.224. As per Village Code Section 145-20A subsection 1, a special permit would be required. And on August 30th, 2022 and September 12th, 2022, the Village of Lansing Planning Board opened and continued a public hearing regarding this proposed action, and therein thoroughly reviewed and analyzed the materials and information presented by and on behalf of the applicant in support of this proposed action, including information and materials related to the environmental issues, if any, which the board deemed necessary or appropriate for its review. All other information and materials rightfully before the board, including if applicable comments, recommendations, if any, provided by the Tompkins County Department of Planning in accordance with General Municipal Law, Section 239 Allen M. And all issues raised during the public hearing and or otherwise raised in the course of the board's deliberations. And the planning board finds this to be a type 2 action for seeker purposes and no further action is required. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Village of Lansing Planning Board hereby finds, subject to conditions and requirements, if any, set forth below and provisions provided for in paragraph B above, the proposed action meets all general conditions required for all special permits, any applicable conditions required for special certain permits, and any applicable conditions required for uses within a combined district. And it is hereby determined by the Village of Lansing Planning Board that the special permit number 2022-4607 is granted and approved or denied, subject to the following conditions below. We just have our general conditions down there. Do I need to read these off, or can I? So there's the soil and erosion control. There's the building permits, all the necessary building permits being obtained, whether they're federal, state, county, local. And then D, in the event of installation of a sidewalk, this is the one that we added in. Owners shall be responsible for proper grading of sidewalk area within curb cut / driveway area as per village DPW. So I will entertain a motion to approve the special permit.
Go ahead.
Motion by Pat,
Second.
Okay.
second by Lisa. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay. Thanks, Mike. So the next item on the agenda is Q&A with potential new planning board member. There's only one though, so right now. Lorraine, did you want to? Unless Carolyn wants to. Okay, Carolyn used to be on the planning board. Did you want to just stand up and introduce yourself, Lorraine? And it's really just an opportunity for you to tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to be on the planning board, and a chance for us to ask you some questions.
My name is Lorraine Yapagrosi, and I've lived in the village of Lansing since 2006 as a renter the whole time, and I'm still a renter. I've always been interested in the planning board. I've kept up, I think I've read all your minutes from the time I'm in the village of Lansing. I don't know, it just piqued my interest to keep track of everything that's going on. I notice things just like you guys all notice things. I'm always like, I'm just very in tune to everything that's happening around here. I was born and raised here, so I'm from Ithaca. I've lived in Tompkins County all of my life. Anyway, I've always followed, like I said, the minutes, but I was especially got interested when I was looking, getting ready and wanting to relocate to another apartment community. And so when Cornell University sold the property to Park Grove, well, when all of that happened, right? I followed every meeting for 2 years to see what would happen. Anyway, it just really interests me. And I was like, oh, I wonder if it'd be fun to be on the planning board. So then Susan Ains, who is we're interested now, but when she was first being recruited for the planning board, because I think that was the first thing.
Yes.
Okay. So Susan is a friend, actually she was a neighbor and now she's a friend. So we would talk about it and I was like, oh, that sounds so exciting or whatever. And of course we would start talking about things going on in town. And she'd say, oh, you always know everything that's going on. It would be great. I'm the planning board. So that's how it all started. But yeah, I think I'd be really interested. The only part that scares me is I don't have any background. And I hear all of these codes. I don't know how you remember all of these codes and what everything means. Oh, okay. But yeah, I think it's just really interesting. And, and I care about the community. I mean, I care about the community, all of Tompkins County, but especially the community that I live in. And it's always been nice. I've always enjoyed living up on the hill here. And I see things happening that I don't like to see either. So anyway, ask me a question.
I know Lisa has, right? I can see her over there. She's just waiting. Lisa always has a question. No, go ahead, Lisa.
I always have a question. So one of the things that I think we kind of lost some of our momentum during COVID, and I think, are you able to ever have meetings during the day, as a subcommittee or something, that kind of thing? Do you have flexibility in your life?
Actually, so I do actually have flexibility, and I actually work, I'm home 3 days and on campus 2 days. I work at, by the way, I work at Cornell.
Okay.
Works at Cornell for 42.
Ooh.
Not in the same job. The last 5 years, I've actually worked in the College of Architecture, Art and Planning. I'm in the Alumni Affairs and Development Office, but we are in the college, so I am on campus. So yes, I do have flexibility.
Okay.
But it is nice, especially days that I'm home. I have even more flexibility where if you have a meeting here, I can just sit down. I mean, I live so close, right?
Right. We all do.
We all do.
That's the beauty, but just slip down. It's wonderful. And as for being about the code, what do you think? Any of us? I mean, Natalie has, but there's only really two parts that it took me the longest while to kind of catch on. Slow learner, special permits and subdivision. Those are about it. Those are the real key things but there's so many other interesting things that we've been trying to work on, such as sidewalks, such as design guidelines, some of that kind of stuff that we have waiting. We have solar array. I was going to call you. Short-term rental, all these things, but I think we've kind of figured out that we have to divide and conquer a little bit. And that's why I asked that question, because I have some time. Might not meet periodically, but it's just everybody's very busy, but it is interesting. It really is interesting.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're probably already more up to speed.
I was gonna say, you probably more meetings in a minute.
I was gonna say.
Spell your name for me. My last name.
Your whole name.
Oh, my first name is Lorraine. It's Lorraine. The last name is Capagrossi. It's CAPOGROSSI.
Oh, it's a second. Oh, Capo.
Complex living.
I live at East Point. And I've been there since I was the first one in my building. Well, not the very first one in my building, but maybe the third person in my building. So I've lived there since the beginning. So
Wow.
it was a rough start up there, let me tell you.
Was it?
Oh, yeah. And yeah.
Give us.
Which
Oh,
building?
yeah, I know everything that goes on. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Jim.
Jim has a
Yeah.
question.
I'm getting most of this, but not all of it. Which building did you just move into?
Oh, I live at East Point Apartments.
Oh, the
On
Okay.
Bomax.
way up to the airport. All right.
Yeah.
Jim is also a renter, actually,
Oh,
over in Savannah.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, actually Lansing West. I think Savannah's all
Oh,
condos.
I
But you're in the,
It's very integral. It's very interesting being a renter in these times. It's not actually, especially with the increase in the rent. Well, I think I told Martin, like the day you called me, I said, it's crazy. They're jacking up the rents, even for the long-term tenants. Sad.
It seems like there's a lot of rental properties.
I know there's rental properties popping up everywhere. I mean, do you expect some more in the village? I've heard of it.
People talk.
Hopefully that'll create competition and maybe the rents.
Yes, yeah.
But you know, with all the development downtown Ithaca, I mean,
Yeah.
they're basing their market rates on what's happening downtown, which isn't really fair because a lot of that is student housing.
And a lot of it is
That's basically
sized housing.
Yeah.
what they're basing. It's what's happening at Herald Square and what's happening at City Center. I mean, $3,000 for like maybe 1,000 square feet or not, maybe not even.
Well, I think that's, someone wrote me about Lansing Meadows. It's in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think we.
Yeah.
looked it up in the meeting.
I do recall when I was working, we had a offices right down here on the corner of Graham and Kramer. And I remember we were owned by a company from New York City and they said, you gotta get out of there. It's too expensive. You got Manhattan prices for your office space. And it's just what this area does. I guess our college towns are always like that.
Yeah.
But so
Ask me some more questions. I can.
At Lisa, Jim, we've already checked.
don't you have questions for us?
Well, what type of person are you looking for?
Well,
The reason everybody is laughing is because we have been short of a full board member and an alternate for a while now, so it's nice to have somebody interested.
I was to say the fact that you have been reading the minutes all this
Yeah.
time, oh my gosh.
I mean.
You had me at that one, as far as I'm concerned.
Did you catch up on all the minutes? Pat forgot to catch up on all the minutes before he joined too. Me too, by the way.
But
As soon, after I moved to the village of Lansing, I mean, I've always been around this area, but I think I was living in Freeville before I moved to the village of Lansing. But one of the first things I did was signed up for the twice a year newsletter that they used to send out by email.
Yeah.
I used to, I'd read it from cover to cover. I know it's crazy, right? But I've done that all these years. Like, of course, now they just email it out, you can go right online.
And are you available?
It's just somebody's reading it.
We have an obstacle course that you have to complete within 4 minutes. And you're allowed.
One question I do have is because I don't know enough about, are all the parks that you guys have put into place? I know there's a number of them. The little community parks that you have put in. And you've named them all?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about them. Every once in a while I'll drive by and I'm like, oh, that was.
But and it's interesting you bring that up because there was the Ithaca Times comes out with all this stuff for the beginning of the school year. And they talked about, and I meant to bring this up to our mayor, and they mentioned some of the things in the village. And then they just like they mentioned the mall there and they mentioned the Trip Hammer Mall, but they didn't mention the Cayuga Mall or Aldi as a grocery store, but they mentioned Tops. And it was just this kind of pick and choose, and it's like we get left out often about certain things. I will say, it was really, I thought, darn, it just was kind of odd, and they didn't mention any of the parks. The biggest one being over near Northwoods, but
Well, maybe you need to have the Ithaca Voice come to one of your meetings and
They come sometimes.
have them tell them what you have here to offer.
yeah,
Maybe have somebody do a story with them and what the Village of Lansing has to offer. And
but they're usually more interested in something, if something upsetting is going on, but I think they're,
Right. Like news.
yeah.
oh, that another person that I followed for a long time was Brian Crandall, because he always gives out the construction updates.
Yes.
Yeah. And I used to love his blog, Ithacating. Doesn't do it anymore.
No,
He still posts on his Twitter page. He still posts everything. There's a lot of stuff happening.
so our meetings, we meet the second Monday and the last Tuesday of every month. So if that works for you. And are you available like for our next meeting, for example?
And the-
If I'm just wondering when you're available. Do you
No,
have?
I am Lisa.
I think to be,
Interview with was, what is your agenda?
Yeah, that was a personal agenda sometimes.
What is my agenda?
Yeah,
I'm actually looking for like some side activity. I mean, someday I'm gonna retire, right? Hopefully the next couple of years. So I'm kind of thinking about, if I retire from Cornell, I have to do something, right? And so I've just been thinking, this might be a good opportunity to get involved in this. And
so I guess I'll phrase that. What is your agenda with regard to moving the village?
Oh, okay.
Direction?
Well, hopefully I would be helpful and be able to give advice. And I would like to see more growth, but depending on what it is. I'd like to see something happen with the mall. I'm sure everybody would, right?
Yeah.
I think his concern was that if you have a
Personal. Yes.
that
Yeah.
you're operating the plan board, because I really want there to be a stop sign on my block.
Oh, no, I don't have any agendas. Yeah, just.
No, yeah, he would, but the thing is, because I think sometimes people have said, well, we just do this. And I said, well, no, we have a code, and if it's not in our code. But that doesn't mean that if something keeps coming up or we feel something needs changing, that we can't consider it. Because maybe there's a lot, the code hasn't been changed in 20 years or something. And so we're there's some things that we need to tighten up on and that kind of stuff. But it's more about some people, yes, they get on because they have some sort of
Oh, no,
agenda.
I do not have a personal agenda with anything. Sure, there's a few places around here that I'd like to see torn down, and I'm sure you've. But no, I don't have any personal agenda.
I think, you had the question about the type of person that we're looking for on the board, and, you had asked us about, our backgrounds, and I don't think any of it, well, you don't count, sorry. But no, the board members, like, none of us come from a background of, I'm a city planner, regional, like, we don't have that background. Lisa mentioned a little bit what she did. There's people who have, have been or are attorneys. I'm an IT director at the law school. That's about as close as I get to law. So I always joke with Natalie, I love the fact that I get to hang out with lawyers every day and all day long, and then come here and get to sit next to Natalie for a few hours. No, so it's varying. None of, when I started, I didn't have any background, with, other than I lived in the village and, kind of kept up on things and was interested, and it seemed like, just a good opportunity to kind of offer back and help guide things. And like Carolyn mentioned, I've got small kids that live here in the village, and no particular agenda other than, wanting to, kind of see things move in a direction that, kind of keeps the village modern, right? Things are changing around us all the time, and we want to be part of that, but in a way that fits the look and feel of the village.
Right.
And so, that's.
Well, I've always thought of this area, up on the hill as the better place to live in town, because things have gotten so bad downtown, but now I'm starting to see like the downtown filter up to uptown.
Happens.
Anyway, so.
But
I hope I could add some value. I'm very organized. I think I already told Mike this when he called.
Oh, boy.
I said that I'm very organized. I have a real strong attention. You could ask my boss. Very strong attention to detail. I'm a great proofreader. So.
Oh, yeah, yes. Done. Mike's like,
So. To the woman's lap.
I'm usually like, with deadlines and things like that, like I'm.
We should have you talk to a couple of people, so we know.
any other questions from board members? Jim, anything you wanted to ask?
No, I've been listening attentively and don't have any further questions.
And to answer your question, though, we do have fun sort of.
We do have fun, yes.
Yeah, as you
If you
noticed.
can't tell already, yeah.
I mean, good night.
Yeah. Yeah.
We try to behave it, yeah, because we are being recorded. We didn't used to be.
Did we
And
still behave?
we still behave.
We just weren't being recorded here. Some of us did.
Recording because of the Zoom or?
No, but
No, yeah, no, even if everybody was here, we're still gonna, it, gives people a great opportunity to be able to, join the meeting. I will say that I've never seen, and obviously COVID, helped with some of that, but, I've never seen so many people, at our meetings. When I first started, the only people here were the board members and maybe the community observer. But yeah, so it is nice to, have the record going back when we're doing minutes and things like that. It gives people a great opportunity to join it. And we've got the technology, so we're gonna keep using it.
and it's on YouTube then to follow up.
I know, and I
think that's great.
Well, when Susan first started talking to me about the planning board, I did go in and watch a couple of the meetings
Oh,
on
geez.
YouTube, and actually it was pretty interesting.
Yes.
I'm avoiding watching any of them.
I was just saying, well, I watched them today. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I love now that we have to offer a virtual option for all of our meetings, even our council meetings, our Dean's Advisory Council meetings, because I usually take the minutes.
That's
So it's
right.
so great having the recording on Zoom. You can go back and, listen to things.
Yeah.
Whatnot, but.
No, it's very helpful that way, and I think you demonstrated tonight how useful it can be to have that history.
Mm.
Because we do forget, everybody has a different
Yeah.
recollection of town,
Replay that a few times.
I marked down the time, definitely.
which we should.
So I will share, what the next step would be is we would make a recommendation to the Board of Trustees to appoint you as a planning board member.
Yes.
So we normally,
Full.
a full, yes, it would be a full planning. So I did mention that there's also an alternate spot open. But we would fill that full spot first. And so that would be potentially you don't have to go to the planning board meeting. I don't think I went when they.
Board trustees.
Yeah.
What? Or
I
the Board of Trustees.
The Board of Trustees, yeah.
No.
I didn't go when they.
I don't know if there's any protocol. I went to the Board of Trustees meeting where I was being considered only to be there in case they had any questions they wanted to ask.
Yeah,
But
you can, you don't have to. It's,
There's also a Zoom option.
yeah, you can, that's right. You can zoom in. They do their meetings over Zoom too, so.
One of the things that we do is we share liaison, so one of us will always attend a Board of Trustees meeting. We take turns by a month. So, that has been really handy too for Zoom. Because, it isn't as crucial that we be there in person. And I think
Yeah.
I still intend to be liaison via Zoom unless there's something important to not. I don't know. Were you
liaison
tonight? She was tried to be, and she
Mike wouldn't
forced her to come on.
Because I was sitting here the whole time and I saw you were in the waiting room.
Oh, see, I didn't.
I was.
Attention to detail, see?
We weren't gonna drop.
Maybe it was on purpose.
I'm telling you, I thought it was kind of interesting though, that did happen, that David had these suggestions about Greenway or bring it up. And here you were to hear. But
I'm not, this one, the planning board, you'll never be in the waiting room again because I'll be.
I know how to fix this issue. I really do know how to fix this issue. I got it all.
Actually, it happened to me a couple weeks ago when I was.
Yes.
And I actually texted Susan Ainsley.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm gonna contact Mike.
That's what I thought. I said, this guy looking at their phone right now, and they figured none of them were, so that's why you're Uber.
Oh, yeah, no, actually.
speaking of being close, right? I mean, that's one of the beauties. Okay.
I know how to fix it. So then, unless anyone has concerns, I would entertain a motion to make a recommendation to the Board of Trustees that we, I guess, recommend that they appoint Lorraine as a full member of the planning board.
I so moved.
Motion by Lisa,
I'll second.
second by Pat, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. So we will, I'll make that recommendation to them and they will bring it up at one of their upcoming board meetings. I don't know when the next Board of Trustees meeting is.
Next week.
The 19th, so
Monday,
But we have the two things, we have the.
there's already the agenda was set up.
It already went out.
Whether I
Jody's
can
out.
or not.
What, the 19th did?
Yeah, Jody's not here.
Jody's
I'll be
out.
here for the meeting.
And it's Capo Grossi. Okay, no, 1A.
Right,
Okay,
and it's 2 R's in my first name.
yeah, right. I always thought Lorraine was always spelled with 2 R's.
Yeah.
we can or can't get
That is right.
Here, I'll add it to the. Board of Trustees meeting. Just
I would say,
change the agenda.
yeah, let's add it to the Board of Trustees agenda for the 19th and
Yeah, you have to send a quick note.
I'll send an email tonight when I get home.
Make sure you
Or before I leave, I'll copy you.
copy me so that I can change the agenda. I guess I can sit here for a few minutes and do
All
all
that stuff that way.
There's also gonna be a, well, I'll wait until we have. comments.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the review of proposed local law amending subdivision wording.
Thought we were gonna make more changes to it.
Okay,
What,
Right.
the subdivision?
I thought we were gonna discuss changes about like conditional approval.
Yeah, I still am struggling with that and
Yeah.
what word
I
did we
would-
come up with the other day?
tentative, but there's not really a
Yeah,
good
there's not a
word. Then we
I saw a statute from another village. that
And I
thought
started to
handled it
look
well.
and they were all worse, I thought some.
I
of them,
saw a
but
good one the other day.
And what was it? Did you?
I don't recall, but I can find it.
But yeah, no, I was starting to read this and then I realized, well, how come this is the same as this? It keeps reading this the same. But the first one is section 125.6, which is approval of a minor subdivision. So we had to change both the language from the public hearing, the close.
Yeah.
Yes.
To the close in both sections. And then, yeah, but I do feel that we got into a jam with the word conditional because we didn't, and maybe it's simply to say it's preliminary.
Groton, it has good language.
Okay.
Said roughly.
No, I have it on my computer. It's I think
So those are the two things that we were talking about. There was the 62-day thing and then there was also the preliminary.
Yeah.
Okay.
And whether it's just a preliminary or somehow even say
Yeah.
We looked at conditional.
even if there are no, it may be the additional. Additional information comes to light somehow.
I'll
That,
send the language.
okay, okay,
I thought it was all encompassing.
really good.
Conditional is the language that's used in New York State statute.
I was
don't
gonna
think you
say-
Get away from that.
I was
But
wondering.
how you then explain it.
Well, see, there was a misconception
Yeah.
that I didn't realize until David Beard
Yeah.
felt that meant there were no conditions.
Yeah.
But it's different. I was wondering, because I looked at a couple of other statutes too, and the conditional word is always there, and I thought, oh, there's some sort of legislation behind all
Yeah.
this, I bet.
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
Okay, so we can talk about that at the next meeting. Then.
Yeah, but other than that, I mean, this is fine,
Yeah.
this part.
So you're just making some changes, that's it.
Well, this was just to clarify the close of the public. I mean,
Right,
this is
to say
very
close it.
simple. I don't know if it's worth it to just wait till everything is all together or just.
Yeah,
I would say.
yes, oh, yes,
Yeah, there's no hurry.
my gosh. And in fact, it's on a typo on, in part of the statute that exists now.
Okay, good. I was like, I just copied and pasted it, so.
Well, it was in section C,
Had something to do with greater than sign or less than
the
sign.
less, yeah. Yeah.
Full mass.
Oh,
Okay. Anything else on that? Are we good?
Yeah.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the trustee report and the trustee liaison was
Me,
Pat.
they did not meet.
right.
That's like, what did we do?
Labor Day.
Okay, oh, that's an easy one then.
Yeah.
I can't.
But just read it in a minute.
Anything, also, other business? Natalie,
The trustees will be considering the tree law at their next meeting. I think there'll be some questions, so I'll try to address those, but if anyone feels strongly about the tree law, perhaps you may want to attend.
that's the same 19th meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. We can join over Zoom, just saying if anybody's interested.
So you'll be there
You'll
for
be there.
sure.
Yeah,
But
Do you have any sense of the questions?
I think it was clarified question.
Oh, okay. Oh, gosh.
okay.
Don't look at me.
Gonna have to
As
ask
long as it doesn't have to do with bushes. and-
Simon, the consultant. come in.
Equals. I don't think the table is in question.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I'll try to join in too, just to,
In case there's questions.
it will be over. Zoom, though,
Yeah.
not in person. Okay.
So, in terms of some of the other stuff we wanted to tackle,
Did you have other stuff you wanted to bring up, Natalie? Oh, I thought there was one thing you wanted to bring up.
That was it when we were
Oh,
talking about the planning.
Oh, okay,
Talking
gotcha,
about the
okay.
board of trustees.
So yeah, in terms of other things we wanted to bring up. Let me open this up. So I'm gonna just list some things up that I actually have these sorted. So there's sort of three things that we have either started and are close on, or that we've started and we're not close on, or that we're not started at all, but are important. So solar generation, we had put a bit of effort into before and had gotten pretty far on that. So that's one of the things that will, in my mind, at least should be a priority. Short-term rentals, that was another thing that we had put quite a bit of energy into. I think we're a bit further away on that one. But I think there's also been a lot of progress in the area, in the city and other areas since then that we can draw off of. And I know that we got, especially when Karen was here, we kind of kept discussing a few areas over and over again. I think that maybe we can look at some of what's been developed and passed recently and get some guidance there. And then the tree ordinance that the Board of Trustees is going to be looking at their next meeting is specifically for commercial properties. We had said that we really need to go back and talk about the tree ordinance as it pertains to residential properties. So that's another thing that I had up towards the top of the list. Some of the other things were special permit updates, which we've been talking about, accessory buildings. We were talking.
oh
about.
yeah, just some minor things. Well, when we had the issue with the recent issue where there was the homeless thing that was brought up, and in the recent, there's so many things that restrict us from doing anything, and I thought, well, that isn't right. It's gotta be somewhere in here. So I went through our code looking for trouble, actually, and I didn't find anything that would work for that, but I came across all these little things that I started noticing that really need tidying up. I mean, and so at some point how do we want to deal with that?
You talk about tidying it up as in inaccuracies or says something here, but then contradicts itself.
Yeah, well, not contradictory. So
I mean, one example is like, right, some of the districts are not mentioned.
like
in all places.
Never got into, I forget where it is now. I mean, I have to, I started marking it and trying to put it down, and then I thought, oh God, this is a huge project. So I really, we need to tidy that up. CMT should be in there. That kind of stuff should be in there. And then I also think that there are just some formatting things that I would like to see changed a little bit. But we also, one of the things we never got into, or I don't think we cycled back to, was our definitions, some of our definitions that need to be like, we still have mobile homes only, and we need to worry about manufactured homes. Or accessory buildings didn't include propane tanks.
Right, so that's kind of like those
that
sort of
kind
terms.
stuff. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. And we never, what did we ever end up doing with assisted living and special care facility?
We didn't.
Exactly. I think we need to get into the fact that there, nowhere do we talk about addiction or recovery services, that kind of stuff. It's a different world.
And so part of that kind of leads into the next one, and we started this for a specific reason, but kind of got hung up on it, was the chart of uses. Reviewing
Right,
that.
well, that's where, yeah,
So
that
that would be
needs
part
to
of
be,
that.
that
Parking lot design.
parking lot design.
Design we talked about. There is, Lisa brought up just a discussion about drive-through and takeout.
Oh, yeah, I was, during COVID, drive-through and takeout was kind of a bigger deal. And yet we have some restrictions that maybe we don't want after all. I mean, it's always based on the traffic, but maybe, I think we just summarily just say, can't have it here. You know what I mean? And maybe we don't
It's worth
want that.
reviewing, yeah.
And I just think we need to cycle back and look at some of this stuff, that's all.
With all the subdivisions that have been happening, looking at the subdivision square footage and road frontage and making sure that that's appropriate, it is what we want. Maybe it's fine the way that it is, but it's worth looking at.
Yeah,
I don't know how much of some of those things are to like state law versus municipal.
I don't think the state.
I don't think they.
I would imagine, yeah.
Zoning is.
Yeah, that's right. But so, and then, comprehensive plan,
Oh, gosh.
will expire when in 2025?
Let's give it away, Ray. No,
Assistant safety for copy.
well, and actually,
The comprehensive plan.
yeah, there's some things in there that we've actually made a little bit of progress.
That we have.
Yep, we have.
But so. I think solar generation, we got pretty far on.
Oh, yeah.
Keep looking at Karen.
Solar generation.
Solar panels.
Things like that.
Village started to try to make solar power.
No.
No.
Oh.
My work be done pretty much for a while, waiting for Mr. Scott.
No, I don't.
To be honest, I mean. Yeah, I would dig right into that. I'm just looking for some direction on how the planning board wants to go. I don't want to be spending days and days and days on a certain aspect if we're going, or a certain specific section. And then we guys kind of want to head. So I'm kind of looking for some guidance on which way you guys want to go with it.
I thought we were. Yeah, I worked with you and Tony on it.
Yeah, we saw.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. We saw it a few times, actually.
Yes, we did.
Haven't changed since.
No, I was gonna say, I don't know what has changed.
The last time we had it, we were trying to find a way to, it was rather thick, which really doesn't matter as long as it's saying what it's supposed to say. But it was similar to the telecommunications.
Yes, it really was. I remember, that's right.
We were looking to either for a better word, kind of condense it down to a Reader's Digest version, but still have the same, the same points, or we were going to try to combine it with telecommunications, which, like I said, was rather similar. And at that point, we switched over to something else and.
I would say let's focus on just that and not try to wedge it in with telecommunications.
Yeah, I wouldn't mix them.
More telecommunications when Maury wrote it, you probably based it off that section, but that's only the third section for the largest projects.
Yeah.
This first two are much simpler and they're gonna be 99% of the time what's happening. So, I mean.
Do you want to send out what you have to everybody? Because I
The
know,
latest version.
well, because I know Pat wasn't here.
If that's the direction we want to go, then that's.
Well, just
Now-
get it to
Just
us.
get it out. We'll take a look at it. Yeah, we won't make any decision until the next meeting, but if everyone can take a look at what's there. And if you want to pose any questions when you send it out, go right ahead and we can at least be more prepared when we do come to say, okay, yes, this is the direction that we agree we should go.
And I don't know, I had sent out regarding short-term rental, there was some really good articles
Yeah.
about, how, their various levels of, from totally banning this, that, and the other thing to sort of general concepts. And I guess I would like everyone to, if STR is going to be on our agenda, to what's the most important thing to them?
Yeah.
I mean, I know what some of mine are, some of the things that are most important to me, but Mike has a different approach because he's looking for safety issues.
Yep.
I'm looking for, erosion of neighborhood. I don't know what other people are looking for.
Yeah, and so short-term rental, I would say, I think that there's three things we should tackle. I think solar panels, if that's what you want to call it. Short-term rental and the tree ordinance. I am happy to work with someone on the residential tree ordinance. I don't know if you're interested in working with me on that, Lisa.
Oh, no, I am.
Okay, so I think, Lisa and I can tackle the kind of residential piece of it. A lot of it is going to be,
We have
what's-
some good examples
Yeah.
from other places, and I think one of the things that came out of when we were looking at the tree ordinance is it just doesn't, you can't have that.
Yeah.
For residential, it just doesn't make sense. It would be impossible to enforce for starters, but it's never a bad idea. I mean, I think there was about, I don't know, 3 weeks ago too, there was all this stuff on the news about heat islands and the importance of trees and all this. I mean, it's a timely time.
Yeah.
Same with parking lot design for that matter, which, as I go over there to the mall and it rains, all the water is just going right down.
Yeah.
And so, those are the kinds of things, but yeah, I would work on residential tree
So I can do that with you.
and
I'm happy to do solar panels. I'm just gonna change the panels.
it's so.
With somebody, once we decide what,
Solar array length.
there we go.
And I had one from 10.
And then there's short-term rentals. So at some point, if there's a couple people who want to work on that together, you can do it over Zoom, by the way, too. You don't have to do it in person as long as two of you do it all the time. Is everyone in agreement with that? You can say, no, we should also focus on this thing, or no, that's way too many things. We should, I just feel like the solar arrays were so close on. It would be great if we could finalize that. And then, the residential tree ordinance is very timely. And then short-term rentals, it's really important, I think, for the area here.
Are you having any other issues with that?
Short-term rentals, yeah.
No complaints or anything good?
No.
Good.
Just a reminder, the purpose of the solar array code is to both encourage solar power and also to make sure that it's not obstructing and awkward for the neighbor's property. So
Yeah, that was because when we did the East Shore thing, that one.
Yeah.
That, where they subdivided.
Mhm.
I was shocked when I went over there, how close all that was to the neighbors. It was like,
yes,
oh,
that was screening and
buffering, yeah,
distance requirements.
yeah. We looked at that, yeah.
Unified code has come out with some more.
I was gonna say, everybody keeps coming up with stuff too.
Yeah, I
The
think
thing.
based on the unified code. When I did it, whether that's still the unified code, I don't know.
I mean, I think Tony worked with us too, and there's a lot of the technology that was just, he says, of course, by the time we publish this, it'll be outdated.
That's why we didn't do like 1,500 kilowatts.
And that's why I said it shouldn't be technology based, because that, now, you can, if you want to have some appendix like we've done for other things. Maybe you could put some of that stuff in there, but oh gosh, no, the code should not be based. on
No,
planning.
it would,
Yeah.
yeah, initially, I think we went down that track and now that's when, this
But when you hit 25 gigas.
something.
Then it comes to state law.
Yeah. And so the unified code is not gonna really help in our situation because it doesn't really deal with zoning. Most of that deals with like fire protection. If you have it on a roof, you have to have
Oh, yeah.
walkway. I mean, that's just in the
Even if it
details.
has to be accessed from a certain point, so that isn't there.
There's a certain percentage of coverage you can only have now. Before you could just litter your whole roof and not gonna do that.
Uh-huh.
We did consider that. I know there's this big access from two sides or something. I don't remember exactly what it is.
But it doesn't have anything to do with zoning.
Right.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay.
I
Good.
think you suggested language of in accordance with all firearms and safety.
Well, it's so close that I sort of think, can we just do that one and
Yeah.
get it?
We've, like you said, we've made between sidewalks and the commercial free areas, we've been updates to, the special permit processes, things that were close there. I think it's important that we keep that. We're never gonna be bored. There's always plenty to do. Sometime we can do a full code review. Anyway, I know.
I don't think.
Well, good for you.
Natalie, I said we.
Sport.
We,
The royal.
yeah.
Yeah, I deal with this solely because I mean, you're not gonna. As far as that office goes, you're not gonna be using the solar as much as I would be the short-term rentals, but you're a lot closer with finishing off.
Yes, I would say we're almost there. It just seems.
I like that. I like the direction.
Pat, did you have anything else you wanted to bring up? Lisa?
No.
Jim?
No,
Are you gonna be with us next time?
planning to.
Good.
Brent, did you have anything you wanted to add?
You've just got a couple, next meeting might be rather stacked, especially if the beers are here.
Okay.
Depending on whether Eric comes back or not. I have no idea how that works out. You're probably going to have.
I suspect.
Dart Drive is doing a major subdivision. They basically have two lots now. They have the one house that sit on the west side of the pond, and there's another house on the other side. I think there's room for 3 more lots.
That's
Because
easy.
the MDR only has 100 foot of frontage, so he can get what he needs in there. Also T-Mobile will be coming in for a special permit. They had the small, considered a tower. They have the small little tower over here by McDonald's.
Or is that? why
Yeah, they just
that one-
put new equipment on it, but it's required to come to you guys. So that'll be in Brent's wheelhouse.
He's nodding, he's on board.
I talked about ice load and wind shear. I don't know.
Oh, my God, yes. Is it gonna collapse and what's gonna happen? Yeah.
They've been very cooperative. Got me everything I've wanted so far.
Really?
Last week they had gotten me, so I already sent the GML 239 in.
Oh, my gosh, isn't that nice when they?
Nice people get you things like 3 weeks ahead of time, 3 minutes. So I'll get that over to you, Brent. You can take a look at it.
Yes?
No,
And I have one question. So the governor has not extended I didn't think she
I don't
had.
think so.
So then that means as of tomorrow, the villages law kicks in. So we do have to have a quorum in person here to hold the meetings. But if you are remote for one of the reasons, and when I emailed everybody, I put a link to the village's local law out there. Is local law? Yes, local.
Yes, it's a little.
Out there.
Ask Eric.
Yeah. That has all the information in there. So as long as there's a quorum here, if there is 1 or 2 people that, if everyone was here, you could vote remotely.
We can.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Or in
or,
order to have the meeting.
Right.
But in this case, if the law was in effect right now, Jim could be a voting member because we have a quorum. here.
right.
But you're only allowed to be remote if you fit the criteria.
Right, there's criteria in that document. So,
I have to hear Jim cough once.
no, I heard Jim. Definitely. No.
I think it's looking peaky. I don't know.
Anyway, with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I just wanted to say one thing.
Go ahead.
Yeah, because I was researching earlier today about what the governor did or didn't do, and I saw a story that not only did she not extend it, she ended it.
Okay.
Oh, she specifically
Okay,
ended.
there you go.
Okay,
There you
that
go.
settles
There
that.
you go.
Which makes things interesting if suddenly things start going the wrong way in the middle of winter.
She'll reinstate it.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
I think. Who knows?
Yeah. Okay. I will entertain a motion to adjourn the
I
meeting.
move to adjourn the meeting at whatever time it is.
8:48 PM. Motion by
8:40.
Jim. Second by Pat. All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.